Chapter 61, Only for Members. There were different types of flour, such as high, low, or medium gluten. Some were suitable for making dumplings and buns, some were suitable for making bread, and some were suitable for making noodles. Different categories were depending on how much the dough was cooked. Of course, there were also some such as snow pollen, dumplings flour, bread flour, and so on. There were many types of flour, but the powder processed by the Mount New Moon was omnipotent. Zhang Han could control the degree of the flour according to the amount of water he poured into it, and do whatever he wanted to do. Furthermore, the noodles themselves were very fragrant, so the delicacies they cooked could be said to be unquestionable. Papa, what should I do? Meng watched from the side for a while, but she did not know what she was going to do. Meng can just press this small dough into a flat round shape. Zhang Han pointed to the dough. Oh. Meng obediently stretched out her hand and pressed down. Is that so? Ah, I can't take it down. What do we do, Papa? When Meng's small hand pressed down, she immediately stuck the small dough onto her palm. Meng raised her hand, looked at it for a while, then swung it up and down with force, but could not shake it off. Ha ha ha. Zhang Han laughed heartily. He seemed to have seen this scene before, as if he had also experienced such a view when he was young. Here, Dad will get it for you. Zhang Han took off the dough in Meng's hands and placed some flour on her hands. He said, wipe some flour, and it won't stick to your hands. Ugh. Is that so? Meng successfully squashed a small piece of dough. Then the little princess raised her head and looked at Zhang Han and said, Papa, how is Meng's squashing? Zhang Han muttered to himself as he carefully looked at the small dough and said, it's excellent to press. Meng is so awesome, and it's really round and flat. Ha ha. Meng laughed happily as she continuously pressed down little dough, feeling that it was both fun and fun. Papa, look at this, round. Papa, look, it's so flat. Papa. When Zhang Han saw this scene, at the same time as a happy smile leaked out from the corner of his mouth, the depths of his eyes also became somewhat absent-minded. As a father for the first time, he finally knew how his father felt as a child. At that time, he had pressed dough, and his father had looked at him with such a gentle gaze. Their family members happily packed dumplings, and the child's happy appearance. As a father, his heart was happy and satisfied. I wonder how Mom and Dad are doing now. After a year, no matter where you are, no matter what trouble you have, my son will come and fetch you. Family reunion, I'll let you all see your cute granddaughter. Zhang Han sighed softly in his heart. He was naturally anxious about his parents, but Zhang Han would never put this emotion on his face. Instead, he kept it buried deep in his heart. It was the same as Xian's. Meng pressed the dough very slowly. Every time she finished pressing the button, Zhang Han would roll the dough in 2 seconds and wrap the dumplings up in 2 seconds. The dumplings were round and plump, like a gold nugget. This caused Meng to become a little anxious. While she increased her speed, she pouted and said, Papa, why don't you slow down a little? All right. Daddy will be a bit slower. How about you press the button with Daddy? No, I press. During the interaction time between Zhang Han and Meng, the dumplings had been appropriately wrapped. Because they were mainly made by Meng, the dumpling was very exquisite and was a lot smaller than usual. Zhang Han took the panel and returned to the kitchen. Just at this time, the water also boiled, and then the dumplings began to cook in the boiling water. Just then, Zhang Han cut the garlic into minced garlic and put it into a bowl. He added soy sauce and placed vinegar, fragrant oil and chili oil beside it. Zhang Han used 2 small plates to mix the dipping condiments, and very quickly, the dumplings were placed into a net basin, and Zhang Han put 2 plates on the table. Meng, it's time for us to eat. Zhang Han waved to Meng who was on the sofa. Come, let's eat. Meng ran over happily. Boss. Just as Liang Mengkai opened her mouth, he interrupted her. Go ahead and get them. There's no need to ask in the future, I'll leave some for you guys when I cook. Hee ha hee, boss, you're so nice. I love you. Hearing that, Liang Mengkai's face lit up and even said a few ambiguous words in front of everyone. After that, Liang Mengkai's face turned slightly red, and her heart started beating even faster. Yu Qingqing looked at Liang Mengkai strangely and laughed meaningfully. As for Zhao Feng, he was slightly stunned, and his heart stirred. Does she like the boss? Zhao Feng sighed in his heart, got up and followed along, preparing to eat a plate of dumplings. The boss's food was very fragrant. Of course, he would not let go of any delicacies. In the face of Liang Mengkai's words, Zhang Han did not have any expression, but Meng Meng was a little displeased. She pouted her little mouth and said, "No, you cannot love my papa." Meng Meng had already decided not to have anything with the little sister. Although she had played with him a few times, that still wasn't good. Hearing that, Liang Mengkai stuck out her tongue, then laughed. Big sister is joking. HMPH. Meng Meng snorted lightly and ignored her. Liang Mengkai did not mind as well and returned to the table happily with a plate of dumplings. Qingqing, why don't you get some dumplings? Liang Mengkai asked curiously when she saw that Yu Qingqing did not get up. I don't like leeks very much. Yu Qingqing shook her head slightly. Not only did she not like it, but she was also very bored. She felt that the leek was a bit spicy, and it would even taste like leek in her mouth. Then forget it, I didn't have much left, I'll eat it all later. Liang Mengkai said as she complacently picked up a dumpling, dipped it in dipping condiments and placed it in the end. After eating, the dough was smooth. When you bit down on it, the fragrance of the leek and egg lingered in your mouth. What kind of feeling was this? The dumplings with the leek and egg stuffing already tasted very good. The leek and egg filling with the Mountain New Moons tasted even purer. With the help of the fragrant wood, the taste of the ingredients was enhanced. This taste was so strong that Liang Mengkai was no longer able to use words to express it. How could this be? After Zhao Du ate a dumpling, his gaze became incredibly gentle, and he muttered softly, "This is the most delicious dumpling I've ever eaten. The taste is delicious, truly formidable." Even with Zhao Feng's personality that did not like to praise others, he could not help but exclaim in praise at this moment. Seeing the expressions of the three, Yu Qingqing's stomach violently rumbled twice. Even the speed of eating the egg fried rice on the plate slowed down. Eventually, they gradually stopped and stared eagerly at the three people who were eating happily. In her heart, she apparently did not like eating leek. But under the support of the three of them, she had thought that Zhang Han's food could not be measured by common sense. Perhaps, the boss's leek is the best in the world. That taste should. Very good, isn't it? Apostrophe. Yu Qingqing's gaze swept across the three people's plates and then looked at their expressions. She intentionally coughed lightly and asked, "Mengkai, Sissy, are the dumplings delicious?" "Delicious." Liang Mengkai replied vaguely while eating the dumplings. "It's too fragrant." Zhao Du replied. After they finished talking, the two continued eating the dumplings on the plate. "It's over just like that?" Apostrophe. Yu Qingqing was slightly taken aback. She was still waiting for one of the two to say, "Qingqing, why don't you try one of them?" However, the reality was ruthless. The two of them only had eyes for the dumplings in front of them. Therefore, Yu Qingqing looked at Zhao Du with some anger. "You still want to chase after me like this, Humphrey? Just you wait." This bastard was completely unreasonable. "I'll go and get it myself," Yu Qingqing said snappily as she stood up and walked towards the kitchen counter. Just as she took a step forward, Liang Mengkai's words came from behind. "Qingqing, didn't you say that you don't like to eat leek? Just try two of them, and leave some for me." Yu Qingqing's body shook, and she muttered angrily, "Losing friends. What a bad friend. No loyalty, no sisterhood." This was the end of the line. "Humphrey, I will bring it all out." In a fit, Yu Qingqing placed all the dumplings that were worth about a minute and a half into her plate. After sitting back down, Yu Qingqing picked up a dumpling and looked at it. All the dumplings were a size smaller than usual. They looked like little ingots and looked pretty good. Without touching the dipping condiments, she directly took a bite. At that moment, Yu Qingqing's eyes slowly widened, and in the next moment, she activated her berserk mode and started to eat her dumplings frantically. At the same time, the bullet screen in her heart floated past once again. So the dumplings made from leek and eggs are so delicious. No, number. It should be said that the dishes made by the boss are the real leek, egg, and dumplings. What I've eaten before is fake. It's all fake. It's all fake. The several of them continued to savor their food, causing the customers sitting at the small white table by the window to raise their eyebrows. They also wanted to have a taste of the dumplings. The surprise that the egg fried rice gave them was too strong, especially for Sun Donging. He could not endure temptation of the taste buds any longer. He turned his head to look at Zhang Han and said, "Boss, I want dumplings too." At this moment, the beautiful lady in front of him strangely said, "If you want to eat it, go and get it. I also want to try it. The egg fried rice is so delicious, and the dumplings will definitely be fragrant." But Zhang Han's answer made Sun Donging laugh bitterly. Members can only eat it. Non-member only has egg fried rice and milk for now. Sun Donging's face stiffened as he shook his head helplessly. A member? At this time, the woman at the innermost area pondered for a moment and said, "Then help me get a member. I also want to eat dumplings." "How much is the member?" When she arrived, she was playing with her cell phone, so she didn't notice the billboard in the front of the restaurant. 1,000,000 yuan. Zhang Han replied indifferently without even turning his head. 1,000,000 yuan? Are you sure it's not 100 yuan? The woman was stunned. She had never heard of a restaurant asking for 1,000,000 membership cards. Chapter 62, Honorable Membership. Yes, the membership card will cost 1,000,000, and it only includes the first 10. After that, each membership card will cost 10,000,000. Yu Qingqing glanced at her, and said, "Furthermore, all of the dumplings are sold. Even if you buy a membership, you won't be able to eat them. The boss will not cook more for you." "Oh." The woman chuckled and shook her head slightly. She didn't show any intention of mocking anyone, because she felt that the egg fried rice here was really delicious. It was just that the membership card was a bit too expensive. The egg fried rice could be said to be a luxury. The 300 yuan was enough for 2 people to eat 4 dishes in other restaurants. Here, you would only get 1 serving of egg fried rice. Oh my god, a membership card cost 1,000,000, it's so expensive. The female at Sun Donging's side opened her mouth, looked to the side of Liang Menkai, and said, "So all 4 of them are members here? So rich, 1,000,000 membership card. And they bought it without hesitation. So cool. The egg fried rice is so delicious. The dumplings must be delicious too. Oh no, this restaurant is so unique. It's a pity that only members can enjoy such delicious food." The woman's heartless words, which Sun Donging heard, lingered in his heart. He liked to act cool, especially in front of the girl he was flirting with. If he showed off his strength, he could enjoy a night of romance. But at this moment, he felt that he was somewhat aggrieved. Bringing a girl here to eat delicious food, in the end the girl was amazed at the delicacy of the food and the heroic spirit of other people who bought a membership card. The only thing she forgot was that he was the one who brought her here, and he was the one who paid. Oh god, how come I don't feel even a little bit of importance? Sun Donging cried out in sorrow in his heart. At the same time, he felt that if he had a membership card in this restaurant, he would show it off all the time. Just imagine, everyone was speaking highly of the delicious egg fried rice. However, when they saw other delicacies and wanted to taste them, only members could. Sun Donging felt that if he had a membership here, this could be said to be the highest stage of pretending. Just imagine, as a member, he brought a girl here to eat a meal that only members could eat. Looking at the envious eyes of the others, hiss. Thinking about it, Sun Donging felt goosebumps all over his body. How about I applying for a membership card too? Suddenly, this thought rose up in Sun Donging's mind. This thought became more and more intense. But I don't have that much money, what should I do? Right? How about I calling my mom to come have a meal? She tasted the egg fried rice and would definitely give me a membership card. Ha ha ha, that's it. There's nothing that can't be solved with a meal of egg fried rice. An idea came to Sun Dongying's mind, and his eyes faintly shone. On the other side of the table, 3 people were already grabbing dumplings to eat. Liang Mengkai realized that after putting all the dumplings on Yu Qingqing's plate, she did not care about her ladylike appearance and extended her chopsticks towards Yu Qingqing's plate. As for Zhao Du, he sneakily and carefully reached for the chopsticks. "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Yu Qingqing hugged the plate in her arms, and said warily, "Don't snatch it away. You are better than this. Let me tell you this, I finally had a meal of leek. You all are not allowed to snatch it." "Qingqing, I'm not full yet." "Qingqing, give me some." Seeing that she could not snatch it, Liang Mengkai quickly pleaded her with her sweet voice. Her coquettish gaze really stunned Zhao Feng's eyes. The more they interacted with each other, the more he realized that Liang Mengkai was very close to the right girl he had in mind, very close. Perhaps it couldn't be described as close, but it could also be said that she was the right girl. As for Yu Qingqing, she could not stand Liang Mengkai's coquettish actions, and said repeatedly, "All right, all right, all right, I'll give you some now, right?" Thus, she gave Liang Mengkai a third of the dumplings in her plate. Seeing Zhao Du, who was looking forward to it, Yu Qingqing only gave him 5 of them, and this still made Zhao Du happy. After finishing their meal, Liang Mengkai and the others went to pay the bill. "Boss, how much are the dumplings?" Liang Mengkai asked with a smile. "The main course and food are all at the same price." Zhang Han replied. "Oh, then that's 300 for each." Liang Mengkai was slightly stunned. Then she stuck out her tongue and said, "I just remembered. We only ate the main course. The food the boss cooked was simply too delicious. It was love to death." He. Liang Mengkai originally wanted to say "I love you to death." But just as she was about to speak, she saw the vigilant little princess looking at her. Meng's clear eyes put her words to an end prematurely. "Then I ate a serving of egg fried rice, 2 dumplings and 2 cups of milk, for a total of 11,000. Liang Mengkai paid the bill. Yu Qingqing, Zhao Du and Zhao Feng had also paid their own meals. Originally, Liang Mengkai and the other 2 had a good relationship with each other, so they could treat each other well. But after they had decided that they will come to eat in here frequently, they thought it would be better go Dutch. "Oh yeah. The membership card is ready. I'll give it to you." When Liang Mengkai and the others were cleaning up the tableware, Zhang Han said this and took out the membership card from the drawer. "I'm number 1, I'm number 1." Liang Mengkai hurriedly said. When she picked up the membership card, she was shocked and looked at it carefully. "Wow, the boss surely has spent some money." The words are inlaid with diamonds. With just a glance, she could tell the material of the membership card. She was a high-end jewelry appraiser, and one of a very high quality at that. Liang Mengkai carefully placed the membership card into her purse. It was not because of the materials on the card, but rather because she knew with just a glance that the card cost was only around 40,000 to 60,000. And that the difficulty was due to the diamond inlay. She was very careful because this membership card made her feel that it was very precious. Not because of the price, but because it could let them enjoy the delicacies here. The other 3 people also got their treasurable card. Yu Qingqing was the 2nd member, Zhao Du was the 3rd and Zhao Feng was the 4th. They held their membership cards and were related, but they never thought that in the near future, Meng's casual restaurant would become the number 1 restaurant in the world. Every single membership card in the restaurant would be auctioned off at an astronomical price. Receiving the membership card, her heart was filled with joy, but Yu Qingqing was slightly stunned, and subconsciously asked, "Boss, why is there no phone number on the membership card?" "What do you need a phone number for?" Zhang Han shook his head slightly and said, "The business hours are settled. The restaurant will not accept reservations, so there is no need to leave the number." "Oh, that's true." Yu Qingqing realized, and looked at Zhang Han with a complicated look. If it were any other restaurant, they would probably accept all kinds of reservations. However, in this restaurant, the cooking time was only that short. The boss acted as if he didn't care. However, everyone who came was convinced. When they were cleaning up their tableware, the woman opposite to Sun Donging shook her head and sighed. The membership here is already this high class. Wow, that's a real diamond. It's too beautiful. This is the first time I've seen such a membership card. Oh really? Sun Donging forced a smile and said, it's really pretty nice to look at. Really quite good. Sun Donging only wanted to eat the delicacies that only members could enjoy. Yesterday was homemade dishes, today was the dumplings, no one knew what would be tomorrow. The exclamations of the girl on the other side was more like a type of aphrodisiac, making Sun Donging unable to endure it any longer. He wanted to quickly buy his membership card, thinking about what he should say when he returned home tonight. The customers left one after another, leaving behind a chorus of praises. Zhang Han did not count the money he had collected, but from the thickness of the stack of $100 bills, he could tell that it was around 7,000 to 8,000. A few new customers left early, and another 3 people came in one after another and bought all the leftover egg fried rice. Those who came after could only run out of food. Furthermore, from the looks of the people when they left, it was obvious that they had completely submitted to the egg fried rice. It seemed that the restaurant would soon become crowded. Sichuan restaurant in the next door. The manager in front of the door frowned as he watched the people leaving Zhang Han's restaurant. Why there are still customers when the food is that expensive? Those people seem to come for every meal, 3 times a day. What's going on? The manager could not understand the situation. If it was just 30 RMB for a serving of egg fried rice, he could understand. However, if it was 300 RMB for a serving of egg fried rice, with which people could even eat 3 decent dishes in his restaurant, and there are still people to eat the egg fried rice, is that meal really that special? Looking at their expressions, it seems like there are some tricks in it. 300 for each. I should go and try it out another day. The manager muttered to himself. Zhang Han was originally playing with Meng Meng on the sofa, but when he got up, he realized that the dining room had already been cleaned up by Zhao Zhu and Zhao Feng. Zhang Han laughed slightly. People like the two who quietly helped Zhang Han with his work, in Zhang Han's eyes, was considered respectful. If someone helped me, I would help them back more. Which was why they were able to become more and more casual in the restaurant, and Zhang Han would not say anything. Looking around the restaurant, aside from the missing items, the photo frame on the wall had not been changed. There were 6 framed photographs on one side of the kitchen wall, and 8 framed photographs on the direction of the piano. Meng Meng, can we go take a picture in the afternoon? Zhang Han said with a smile. Meng Meng was startled. Then after understanding the situation, she was very happy. She immediately put down the toy in her hands, raised her small hand and said, okay, go take a photo. Girls were born with a love for beauty, of course Meng Meng was no exception. Furthermore, before she met Zhang Han, she was very, very, very beautiful. However, not long after she stayed with Zhang Han, the strong impulse to poo broke the lady image, which Xian had painstakingly educated for more than 3 years. According to Zhang Han's words, what kind of woman are you? My Han Yang Immortal's daughter, naturally has the aura of someone who can look down upon the world. Zhang Han carried Meng Meng out to the photo studio in New Moon Bay. Welcome, sir. A waitress came over and greeted him with a smile. Do you want to take a family picture? Yes. Zhang Han nodded and said, I want 14 photos. The frame is 600 by 800. All right, mister, let me introduce you to our service package. The woman wanted to introduce, but Zhang Han shook his head lightly and said, no need to introduce. I want the best, the price doesn't matter. Chapter 63, Only Mama Can Love Papa. Welcome, mister, please come over here. Please come to the 2nd floor. Hearing that, the lady knew that a big client had come, and welcomed Zhang Han to the 2nd floor with a warm smile. Sir, your daughter is so beautiful. It would be better if her hair was tidied up. The lady looked at Meng Meng, and her eyes lit up. When Meng Meng was with him, he had always let her hair be the natural look. It was only when Zhang Han went to the beach that he gave Meng Meng a ponytail. Even so, Meng Meng's exquisite little face managed to control the unusual hairstyle. There are no ugly hairstyles in the world, only people who cannot handle their hairstyles. Some people, whether long or short hair, are very good looking. Some people couldn't handle many hairstyles, such as curl, or straight hair. If they had a new hairstyle, they might not look like who they really are. It was like giving a bald man a wig, or something like that. As for Meng Meng, she had a good face and can handle all the hairstyles. It would make the staff of studio feel much more easier. Of course my daughter is beautiful. Look at her hairstyle. Zhang Han chuckled. Facing the praise, Meng Meng was naturally happy. She hummed a song in a low voice. In the afternoon, Meng Meng had changed her hairstyle quite a bit, and took 10 solo pictures by herself. Some looked angry, some looked happy, some had cute pouting mouths, and some even had one eye closed while she made a golden fish mouth. The photographer even wanted Meng Meng to pretend that she was about to cry, because he loved art, and he was sure that thus pictures will blow people's mind. Thus, he brought up the idea, how to pretend that I'm about to cry. Meng Meng blinked her large and clear eyes and asked curiously. And when Zhang Han heard this, he immediately glared and replied, "What are you talking about? Don't take that kind of pictures." The cameraman's expression froze. He quickly forced a smile and started to take photos of Zhang Han and Meng Meng. There was a picture of Meng Meng riding on a neck. Meng Meng rode on top of the papa's neck, raising both of his hands, leaving behind a happy little face. As for Zhang Han, who was below her, he had a smile that anyone could see. Of course, there were also pictures of Meng Meng kissing Papa, with his face close to hers, and Meng Meng nestling in his embrace and his big hands held her little hands, etc. After taking the picture, the cameraman added Zhang Han's WeChat and told him that he would develop the picture tonight and send it to the restaurant tomorrow morning. Zhang Han went downstairs to pay and then directly left. Before he left, the photographer was praising him. "The pictures of Sir and your daughter are the most beautiful and warmest photos I've ever taken." Facing the praises, Zhang Han only smiled lightly. Just as he got on the car, Zhang Han's phone started ringing. He took it out and saw that it was Zhang Li who called. "Bro, your restaurant is open for business, right? How about it? Did you attract any customer just by your poor cooking skills?" Zhang Li joked. "Huh? What? And you even started to make fun of your brother?" Zhang Han laughed and replied. Zhang Han liked the jokes of relatives a lot, and only when he was with his family did he feel that he was a normal people, not a Han Yang immortal. Family affection is not something that can be changed by differences in social class. "I'm not teasing you. I know how you cook. Remember, on my 15th birthday, you cooked once." "What happened?" Zhang Li said with a smile. "In the end, we all had diarrhea for an entire day, and in the end, you even went to complain to our mother that our big brother wanted to murder you." Zhang Han said with a smile. In his mind, he recalled the scene from that day. At that time, Zhang Li was 15, and he was 18. Although he had played very well in the Shangjing, and was young and frivolous, looking down on others, he still felt very cherish his own little sister. On Zhang Li's birthday, Zhang Han wanted to give her a special present. Thus, after thinking about it, he decided to make a big meal himself. As a result, everyone knew that this big meal was like a laxative. From then on, Zhang Li would call Zhang Han the kitchen assassin. If Liang Mengkai and the others knew about this, they would probably be greatly shocked. "Humphrey." Zhang Li snorted and said, "I thought you had forgotten. I will be on vacation the day after tomorrow. I'm going to take a look at your place. This time, I'll let you experience my true culinary skills." Zhang Han smiled slightly. Most likely, after Zhang Li ate his own food, she would not be willing to leave. It was maybe for the best, because the job that being a DJ in a nightclub was still rather difficult for her. The important thing was, that kind of place was filled with all kinds of people, and no matter what, Zhang Li was still a slim and graceful beauty. and it didn't take a thought to think that there would be some bad people who would harass her. Instead of the job, why not stay in my own restaurant and serve a meal or something? At this time, Zhang Han was already preparing for Zhang Li's arrival, so the prepared food was a bit more sumptuous, making her to stay and work here. Zhang Li laughed after hearing this, and then spoke a few words with Zhang Han before hanging up the phone. Papa, is Auntie coming to be a guest? Meng, who was seated in the back row, asked with a little curiosity. Yes, your aunt will come the day after tomorrow. Zhang Han nodded. Ugh. That Mama will be back the day after tomorrow. Papa, don't we still have to go to the big bird's place to pick up Mama? Meng reminded him with her young voice. Your mother won't be here until 10 in the evening. We can drive there by 9 o'clock. Your aunt should be here by day. Zhang Han said. Oh. Meng answered crisply, her large eyes blinking without anyone knowing what she was thinking. Finally, after 5 minutes, Meng said in a baby voice, Papa, that older sister Kiki said she loved you today. She was joking. Zhang Han could not help but laughing. That, no, only Mama can love Papa, others can't. Although Meng didn't understand love, she understood that Papa and Mama loved each other. Your mother, she. Zhang Han smiled and shook his head. He muttered to himself for a while, then replied, Meng, Dad has you, there's no need to worry. Unhumph, Papa, Mama, Meng, we will be together, forever, never separate. We will never separate. Meng said in her childish voice filled with determination and expectation. Yes, forever. Zhang Han solemnly nodded his head. Aside from Xian, Meng would definitely be with him forever. 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years. Forever. How about? For Meng's sake, get the child's mother to fall in love with him first. Zhang Han thought about it in his mind. It's better not to overdo it, just let it develop naturally. About relationship, Zhang Han didn't like to interfere it. Just like how he liked to live a quality life, he enjoyed this kind of spiritual pursuit. Loving Meng was real, but it was not love with Xian yet. Furthermore, Xian did not know how she felt about him, as the time they had spent together was too short. On the other hand, the past few days of chatting had brought the two of them closer to each other. Sometimes, they would even chat about interesting things. From a friend to a lover, this process was a very important memory in a person's life. Furthermore, Zhang Han subconsciously felt that it wouldn't be long before Xian would fall in love with him. Returning back to the dining hall, Zhang Han gave Meng a bath in the afternoon. Meng sat in the bathtub full of bubbles. She was very happy as her little hands continuously waved the bubbles, and her childish voice hummed a song. Oh, I love bathing. My skin is fine. Oh, I love bathing my skin. Oh, I love bathing. The little princess only remembered this one sentence, but with just that one sentence, Meng had been singing all the time, causing Zhang Han to laugh involuntarily. Although the song hummed intermittently, Meng's voice had inherited Xian's bloodline, and was somewhat childish, but the sound of her voice was still very attractive and enchanting. Soon, it was 5:30. Although the opening hours were written at 18:00 19:00, it seemed that some people already knew that there was no place to sit later. Thus, at 5:30 p.m., 6 customers came one after another. Amongst the 6 people, one of them was someone Zhang Han had met once before when he was with Xiao this noon. Apparently, he was subdued by the egg fried rice and had pulled his friends over to have a taste. At this time, Zhang Han also started to cook the rice, and before long, Sun Dongyan walked in alone. This time he didn't bring a girl because he felt that he wasn't a member yet. So not only could he not act cool when bringing a beauty over, it even made it seem like young Master Sun didn't have any money. So he planned to not bring any women over until he bought the membership card. No seat available? Sun Dongying saw that there were already 6 people sitting at the 3 tables. He was slightly startled and turned to look at Zhang Han, asking, "Excuse me, This place is full. Can I sit there? While talking, Sun Donging pointed to the member seats that Liang Mengkai and the others had bought. No. Zhang Han replied indifferently. Sun Donging laughed bitterly and sighed as he stood to the side of the table and waited in line. Sun Donging comes from a rich family, and his temper was also not good. Typically, he loved to act cool, but in this Zhang Han's restaurant, he really didn't have a temper. The owner really had a unique personality and treated the customers with a bad attitude. Let the customers serve their own food, and only the members can taste the tasty dishes. Furthermore, he never got changes back when he paid them the money. The first 2 times, Sun Donging gave him money, he waited for 2 seconds, but after seeing Zhang Han casually putting the money in the drawer and walking away, he finally understood that the boss did not plan on giving changes. However, he didn't really care about the money. After all, the egg fried rice here was the best in the world. Putting aside the matter of the money, he was still a frequent customer and a loyal fan. But he still couldn't even sit on a member's seat and eat a meal. The membership card here. I must have it. Sun Donging clenched his teeth as he thought resolutely in his heart. Chapter 64. Start queuing. After Sun Donging stood there for a few minutes, 3 customers came into the restaurant. Hey, hey, hey. Where to go? It's a place where only members can sit. If you want to eat, line up behind me. Sun Donging immediately waved his hand towards the 3 of them. Aren't there only 4 members? There are 3 tables over there. Only 1 table had been taken. There are still 2 empty tables. One of them said hesitantly, even if it's empty, it's not some seats that non-member can sit on. Don't you see that I'm standing here? Sun Donging said unhappily. Oh. The man nodded his head slightly and stood behind Sun Donging. He had come to eat before, but his friends had never eaten here before. One of the slightly plump man frowned and said, there are only 3 tables for ordinary customers. Isn't that a bit too exaggerated? Brother Liu, I think this place is average. Are you exaggerating? Why don't we go to that specialty soy sauce bone house and have a meal there? Why would I lie to you? The man answered, let me tell you, if you don't eat the egg fried rice here, you will regret it for the rest of your life. This is too exaggerated. What's the point in eating egg fried rice? His companion sneered. There was a trace of disdain in his words. Ha ha. Sun Donging turned around and laughed coldly. I had the same idea as you in the past, but what happened then? Didn't I finally submit? Let me tell you, eating the egg fried rice here is a great blessing. If you don't want to eat it, you can leave. I don't want to hear the voices behind my back. Okay, let's eat. The 3 of them smiled awkwardly. After the 3 of them, there were another 7 or 8 customers who came one after another. They all crowded at the entrance of the restaurant and waited in line. So many people? Liang Mengkai and the other 2 squeezed in from the entrance, feeling that the popularity of the restaurant was going a little too fast. It had only been a few days since the opening and people were already queuing up. After they finished their meal, there would probably be more people waiting to get into the restaurant to eat. However, they also felt that all of this was reasonable. With such a delicious egg fried rice, not a single foodie could resist it. One could tell just by looking at the 3 of them, because all 3 of their meals were here. Under everyone's envious gaze, Liang Mengkai and the other 2 sat on the member seats. Liang Mengkai originally wanted to go greet and chat with Zhang Han, but when she turned her head to look, she saw that Zhang Han was busy in the kitchen, and Meng was concentrating on watching the scene on the screen. A few minutes later, Zhao Feng arrived. He slightly nodded to the few people seated to the side of Liang Mengkai. Zhao Feng, why are you sitting opposite me again? Liang Mengkai rolled her eyes and muttered, The corner of Zhao Feng's mouth twitched a few times. Ah, Mengkai, why are you not friendly at all? Zhao Du curled his lips and joked. Zhao Feng is still a handsome guy after all, and you're not young either. Aren't you going to think about it? Liang Mengkai pouted and said, if I want to like someone, I would like the boss, not him. Do you like the boss? Zhao Feng smiled and said, why do you care who I like? Liang Mengkai said snappily. Aren't you a busybody of some kind of gang? Why aren't you collecting the rent? 3 meals a day here. Why are you so free? Zhao Feng heard and paused. A look of helplessness flashed past his eyes as he said solemnly, I don't like that kind of behavior either, but I'm just a subordinate, not the boss. He was not the boss, so he couldn't manage his subordinates, and he couldn't stop this kind of thing. This was a kind of helplessness. But once he dealt with Tang Zhan and became the gang leader, it would be time for him to properly clean up the gang. However, he would definitely not say such a thing. Even if he somewhat liked Liang Mengkai, he would not explain it to her. HMPH, what's so good about being in a gang? You really went astray. Even if you got a pretty face, who knows if you're a bad person? Liang Mengkai snorted. Zhao Feng was truly speechless. Fortunately, at this time, Zhang Han said from the kitchen, the food is ready. Liang Mengkai immediately stood up and walked away with a smile. However, the moment Zhao Feng stood up, he realized that Zhang Han's gaze was fixated on the people lining up at the entrance. After Zhao Feng saw this, he muttered to himself for a bit. He did not first serve the food, but turned around and walked to the door and said to the other people, don't stay here, line up outside, the table is right here. If anyone leaves, you can enter. The moment Zhao Feng opened his mouth, Sun Donging hurriedly stood up. That's right, let's go out and queue up. Come, let's do it according to the ranking just now. No one is allowed to cut in line. Regardless of whether they were satisfied or not, the dozen of people all walked out and lined up at the entrance. However, there were 2 people who were dissatisfied and directly left. Zhao Feng thought about it, then got on the car to the supermarket to buy some chairs. What the heck? You have to queue up for just to eat egg fried rice. Little who, if the egg fried rice is not as delicious as you say, let me tell you, we will not be friends. I've been in the Xiangjiang for 3 years, but have never come across such treatment while eating. Who was that person? He is not the boss and giving orders already? That's right, the boss didn't even say anything, and now he's trying to be in charge. What do you mean by gesticulating? Sun Donging raised his eyebrows, looked at the few men who spoke, and smirked. Do you guys think that he doesn't have the qualifications to command all of you? Hey, I don't mind telling you guys. He's Brother Feng of the Yong Society. Besides the gang leader, he's the strongest. If Brother Feng heard this, you guys wouldn't be able to escape. Sun Donging saw that the faces of the few people had changed. He slightly raised his head, and said with a bit of satisfaction, moreover, he's my big brother. Let me tell you, even my big brother has to behave himself in this restaurant. Yes, you are right. I didn't expect that little brother is from Yong Society. We're just chatting, it means nothing. The few of them hurried to compliment Sun Donging. Sun Donging snorted and ignored them, and returned with his car 5 minutes later. He took out about 30 small chairs from the trunk. After knowing Zhao Feng's identity, Sun Donging took the lead, and everyone followed. They helped place the chairs neatly in front of the window on the left side of the dining hall. After they were done, they sat down in an orderly manner and started chatting, while Zhao Feng entered the dining hall to prepare for dinner. I couldn't tell, but you do have a bit of good intentions. Liang Mengkai said in a strange tone. I like it here. Zhao Feng smiled slightly. It had to be said that his unintentional actions had caused Liang Mengkai to have some changes in her opinion of him. In fact, if Zhao Feng didn't do these, Zhang Han would say it too. This restaurant only existed because of Meng. Of course Zhang Han would not allow the restaurant's atmosphere to become chaotic, but if Zhang Han invited everyone out, he would not prepare chairs for them. This scene was also seen by the people from the spicy restaurant next door. It can't be. That restaurant actually queued up. Are these people fooled? That's 300 yuan worth of rice. A portion of rice can eat 4 dishes here. Crazy, truly crazy. Little go take a look at the situation. the manager said with a slight frown. All right. Xiaom was the woman who went to Zhang Han's restaurant to ask for the price previously. When she walked out of the restaurant with a nod, she asked curiously, "Why are you guys sitting here? Line up for dinner." "Yes," one of them said. "This." Xiaomai grinned and said, "His restaurant's food is so expensive. Why are you all still queuing up to eat? It's delicious. The food is worth it. Of course we have to eat it. 300 yuan is worth it." Little M stared with her eyes wide open. "Huh." A man who had just finished eating sneered and said, "Let me put it this way, even if the boss sells 3,000 yuan of food, there will still be a lot of people queuing up to eat it. The boss is kind and wants to benefit everyone by selling 300 yuan. That impressive?" This time, Lilm was completely stunned. This time no one answered her. Xiaomai pondered for a moment, and said tentatively, Our restaurant still has a lot of places. Do you want to have a taste of Sichuan cuisine? Not just Sichuan cuisine, but also some snacks. Tasty but not expensive, it's worth experiencing." "Ah?" Sun Donging put down his phone, his eyes staring straight at her. "What? You're here to snatch the guests?" "No, I'm just looking at how tired you are standing in line." Lilm smiled awkwardly. "I'm sorry, but we're not tired. We have plenty of time to wait after work." "You don't have to say any more. We definitely have to eat egg fried rice." "That's right. No matter what you are going to say, even if you were to place a delicacy before me, I would not even spare a glance. I will only eat the egg fried rice. With just a few words, Xiaomai returned to the restaurant in a slightly embarrassed state. In less than 2 minutes, Xiaomai came out again. This time, she was standing in front of the entrance of the restaurant as she shouted, "Sichuan spicy cuisine. It's not expensive to eat. Quickly come and have a taste. There are all kinds of snacks and pretty good egg fried rice. It's only 18 yuan. It's only 18 yuan." After shouting for 10 minutes, the manager saw the people lining up and frowned. What was going on? What was going on? Could it be? Was the egg fried rice in the next restaurant really that delicious? No one came even after shouting that. No. There must be a problem. I have to go and have a taste tomorrow. The manager made up his mind. In Zhang Han's dining hall, because there were quite a few people queuing up, the customers eating at the small white table did not rest for too long. Most of them only ate, sat for 2 minutes, then paid and left. After all, everyone understood each other when they went out to eat. It was like when someone forgot to bring a cigarette from a shopping mall and asked others for one. Many smokers had this kind of experience before. After Zhang Han and Meng Meng finished their meal, they would play 2 piano pieces on a daily basis. The melodious melody of the song was very attractive. After playing the song, Meng Meng went to watch TV. At this time, most of the people in the line had already eaten their meal, and 2 of them had already sold out, sighing and leaving. On the other hand, Zhao Feng, after everyone had left, enthusiastically cleaned up the dining hall. "Boss, do you have any wine?" Zhao Feng sat at the white table beside the window and asked. Chapter 65, Zhao Feng was convinced. "What do you want to drink?" Zhang Han smiled and said as he opened the fridge. The freezer was full of all kinds of beer and a few drinks. Zhang Han did not plan to drink any drinks. He only placed it casually on the table, but drinking some beer sometimes would be quite interesting. "Whatever," Zhao Feng replied with a smile. As a result, Zhang Han directly took out 4 cans of beer, all of which were large bottles. He turned around and glanced at Meng Meng. The little princess was enjoying watching the cartoons with relish, so Zhang Han could be free. Carrying the beer, they sat down and listened to each other. "What is it? Is there something on your mind?" Zhang Han drank a mouthful of beer and said, "I guess so." Zhao Feng shook his head slightly. His gaze filled with bitterness. Late last night, he found out that a fisherman found a corpse at the edge of the southern district's seaside. After the official confirmation, the dead person was the little girl that Tang Zan kept and was also a beauty that Zhao Feng took the risk to hook up with. Zhao Feng had plotted for half a year, and when he was about to obtain the evidence, he failed. Tang Zan was on guard against him, but it would be extremely difficult for Zhao Feng to do anything. Boss, I really envy you. Zhao Feng slightly smiled, and said, it's really great that you have such a good daughter, and a warm life like this. Don't envy me. Zhang Han said indifferently, if this is the case, you will only get more and more envious in the future. Huh? Zhao Feng was startled, then he laughed involuntarily. He took a big gulp of wine and said, satisfying, a man should drink a lot. Boss. After Zhao Feng finished speaking, he looked at Zhang Han with a hint of respect. You are an expert, whether it is with the blade or the energy in your body, I can feel it. Yes. Zhang Han nodded. At first, I thought my martial arts were quite decent. However, after meeting the boss, I felt that if I were to exchange blows with you, I would not be able to last for more than a minute. Zhao Feng slowly said, a minute? Too long, if I want to deal with you. Zhang Han grinned. One move. Although Zhang Han was only at the early stage of Qi cultivating stage, his body could easily move up to 1,000 katis or more. Once he reached the foundation stage, he could release his spirit energy outwards. He can hurt a people easily with only a finger. On the other hand, Zhao Feng's expression paused for a moment after hearing his words, as if he was unconvinced. He had been a soldier for many years, and naturally he had a temper. In the army, he was relatively simple and crude. If you could beat me, then I submit. Zhang Han's words made Zhao Feng feel that he was underestimating him, and he was even a little displeased in his heart. Seeing his expression, Zhang Han knew what he was thinking. With a light laugh, he extended his hand towards Zhao Feng and said, try it. Come. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed and he reached out his right hand to grasp Zhang Han's hand. When Zhao Feng held it up, he first used 30% of his strength, because he was afraid that he would hurt Zhang Han's hand. When he held it closely, he discovered that Zhang Han's hand was like an iron pincer, hard and unmoving. Interesting. Apostrophe. A hint of seriousness surfaced in Zhao Feng's eyes. When his strength increased to 50%, he discovered that the boss's hand was still the same as before. Apostrophe. Zhao Feng raised his eyebrows, a little peculiar in his heart. Boss, I'm going to use my full strength. Seeing Zhang Han nodding his head slightly, Zhao Feng gradually increased his own strength. 60% strength, 70% strength, 90% strength. 100% strength. Zhao Feng tried his best to clench it, but the boss's hand still didn't move an inch. It was only when Zhao Feng's face turned slightly red that he realized that he had underestimated the boss. How is this possible? Zhao Feng said in an astonished tone. He knew that even his former captain didn't have such strength. Although Zhao Feng had used all of his strength to shake hands, boss's expression did not change. Zhao Feng still could not think of anyone who could do this. Nothing is impossible. Zhang Han shook his head indifferently, using a bit of power for the first time in his palm. Hiss. In that moment, Zhao Feng felt that his hand was struck by a force that he could not resist, a force that was like a thunderbolt, causing his heart to tremble. I submit, I surrender. Zhao Feng's face paled. He felt that his boss was holding on to him, worrying that his hand would be crippled, so he hurriedly opened his mouth to plead for mercy. Seeing that, Zhang Han immediately let go of his hand, turned and looked at Meng, then laughed, picked up his beer and drank another mouthful. At this time, Zhao Feng was already looking at Zhang Han with a stupefied face. He placed his hands under the table, feeling numb and senseless. After resting for 2 minutes, he took a deep breath, and with both hands holding onto a can of beer, he said to Zhang Han, Boss, I'm really convinced. You're really unfathomable and powerful. Zhang Han did not say anything as he clinked wine with him. Boss, what were you once like? Is it convenient to say? Zhao Feng asked carefully. You can't imagine what I do. Zhang Han smiled slightly. However, Zhang Han's next sentence made Zhao Feng's hair stand on end. You used to be a soldier? Zhang Han said as he drank. Zhao Feng's expression changed as he looked at Zhang Han with shock. For a moment, he simply did not know how to reply. Zhao Feng pondered for a moment, and finally laughed bitterly while shaking his head, and said, "Boss, how did you figure it out?" "Nothing can escape my nose. My eyes." Zhang Han replied, "This." Sigh. Zhao Feng laughed bitterly for a long time, and finally sighed, directly finishing the beer, and then sighed, "I was a member of the Dragon Eagle's Special Forces back then, and was ranked in the top 3 in my individual combat skills. At that time, there was a brother who went on a mission, and he, Zhao Feng, had always kept those memories in his heart, and now that he had opened the chatterbox, he started talking non-stop. "Boss, I don't regret the attack at all. If it was you, what would you do?" Zhao Feng sighed lightly. He felt that the boss was very powerful and was a person who hid his abilities well. Such an expert, in the face of such a situation, would probably retaliate even more fiercely. However, Zhang Han's reply almost made him bite his tongue. Zhang Han said very straightforwardly, "I won't encounter that kind of situation." "Huh?" Zhao Feng was a little confused. These words were of course the truth for Zhang Han. Who was he? There were countless treasures in the Han Yang Immortal. If he was Zhang Han's brother, then he would also have many defensive treasures. All right. Zhao Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he nodded his head, sighing in his heart that the expert's way of speaking was so high. At the same time, he continued, "After that, I was locked up. 2 years later, my old boss found me. He said it was to give me a mission, but it was actually to help me get out of the prison. But I also have to do something for him." "So you're a spy?" Zhang Han laughed and said, "Undercover." "Yes." Zhao Feng nodded, and said with a heavy tone, "Young Society's boss, Tang Zan, has committed all sorts of crimes, and in recent years, his methods of doing things have become more and more cruel. So, in the face of Zhang Han, Zhao Feng revealed the heaviest secret in his heart. He had suppressed it for too long, and he was also very tired. "Papa, Papa." Suddenly, Meng called out, "He's coming, whiz." Zhang Han immediately stood up and turned to leave without any hesitation. Zhao Feng was stunned once again. He looked eagerly at Zhang Han's back, and stretched out his hand towards Zhang Han, as if wanting to call him over. He finally wanted to have a good chat and reveal the secret at the bottom of his heart, but the boss seemed to have no interest in his words. "Boss, can you not be so heartless?" Zhao Feng almost couldn't catch his breath. "He's the most cherished father I've ever seen, not one of them." The corner of Zhao Feng's mouth twitched a few times as he muttered to himself. After finishing the last mouthful of beer, Zhao Feng saw that the boss and his daughter were playing around on the sofa. He did not disturb them and quietly left the restaurant. When he walked out of the restaurant, Zhao Feng laughed loudly. He felt that after chatting with the owner for a while, his suppressed heart had finally been relieved. Sun Dongying's family owned a software development company. His father, Sun Ming, was a talented student in the past. After working in a large company for 10 years, he started his own business and had been developing steadily. Sun Dongying was brought up by his mother, so his relationship with her was slightly better. Every time, he would ask his mother for money. When Sun Dongying grew up, his mother bought him an 80 square meter house, preparing to use it when he got married in the future. That night, Sun Dongying returned home. "You're back. Have you had dinner?" Mother made a boiled fish and came to try it. Sun Dongying's mother said with a smile, "No, Mom, I've already eaten." Sun Dongying curled his lips. It would be bad if he ate Zhang Han's egg fried rice. "How am I going to eat my mom's cooking in the future?" "Brat, you're back? You haven't eaten, so why don't you come and sit for a while?" Sun Ming said. After Sun Dongying sat properly, Sun Ming frowned and spoke in a sullen tone, "Look at your golden hair, you have been showing off for quite a while, can't you be more orderly? You only knows how to stir up trouble in the outside world every single day." Sun Dongying was so angry that he turned his head around. "It's not easy for the child to come back." "Speak less." Sun Dongying's mother said to Sun Ming with a hint of rebuke. "Speak less. If he's okay with it, I don't mind." Sun Ming said with a slightly disappointed tone, He was halfway into university when he was withdrawn because of causing trouble. It's a disgrace. Now you are still fooling around outside all day. Sun Donging, I want to see if you can do anything successful. When did I mess around? Sun Donging could not hold back the anger in his heart, and said loudly, didn't I tell you everything about my fight at school? It's not my fault. If it wasn't your fault, why did they fire you? Sun Ming slammed his chopsticks on the table. Chapter 66, For Membership Card. 2 months ago, Sun Donging was about to graduate from university, and he was expelled because of the fight, which made Sun Ming very angry. For this matter, Sun Ming often scolded Sun Donging, and he had even tried to find a lot of ways to help his son get back to university, but to no avail. Isn't it because the father of the brat that got beaten up is the school director? As a man, he wouldn't tolerate bullying my girlfriend. Sun Donging argued. Girlfriend, how many girlfriends have you had? Can't you have an ambition? How old are you? What do you know now? What can you do in the future? What can you do? Sun Ming said angrily. His career developed well, but there was only one son in his family, so he hoped that Sun Donging could inherit his career. But this brat didn't study well in university. He fooled around with society all day long, making Sun Ming disappointed and angry. It's none of your business what I do. Sun Donging clenched his teeth and turned his head, his tone harsh. Mom, I want money, 800,000. You don't need me but ask me for money. Sun Ming slammed the table heavily. I asked my mum for money, not you. Did I ever ask you for money? Sun Donging was enraged. He stood up and answered angrily. Didn't I make the money in the family? What did I make money for? In order to support the family, in order to let you stand out. What kind of bear do you think you are? If you have no future, you would only spend money every day and spend lavishly. Do you think that it is easy to earn money now? Sun Ming said angrily. I don't need you to care. If you don't want to give it to me, so be it. Sun Donging kicked the chair behind him to the side and angrily walked out. Say less. Sun Donging's mother rolled her eyes and chased after him. Xuanhuan, Xuanhuan. In the hallway, Sun's mother caught up with him. She pulled Sun Donging and said softly, your father is for your own good too. He's not. Sun Donging's tone was a little sad as he said, he scolded me every time for my own good. Besides, I've already explained that matter to him many times. It wasn't because I provoked him, so he didn't listen to what I had to say. Yes, yes, yes. Sun's mother followed and said, Mom understands. Your father is just anxious, he hopes that you can succeed his career. I don't like the software industry. I've already said that my dream is to be a celebrity. Why doesn't my dad support me? You want me to learn some lousy software? I'm not interested in that. Sun Donging said angrily. Why did he inherit his father's dream? Why couldn't his father understand he and support him? Sun Donging was very confused. At this time, a hint of bitterness and sorrow flashed across Sun's mother's eyes. She shook her head and forced out a smile, saying, your father is also not having an easy time. You. By the way, what did you just say you wanted $800,000 for? Didn't I give you 300,000 this month? It's useful. This time, I really have serious business to attend to. Sun Donging slowly said. What is it? Tell Mom. The son's mother said with a smile. I want to get a membership card for a restaurant. Restaurant membership card? It won't cost that much money. Sun's mother was puzzled. Mom. Sun Donging muttered to himself for a moment, then said, this restaurant is called Meng's Casual Restaurant. The membership price is 1 million. The egg fried rice in this restaurant is delicious. Whatever the boss cooks is delicious. The household dishes are especially delicious too, but, besides the egg fried rice, everything else needs to be eaten by members. Mom, if you and I will go eat tomorrow morning, and you will know. All right, then Mom will accompany you in the morning. Sun's mother nodded. Okay, thank you, Mom. Sun Donging laughed at this time. Needless to say, in Sun Donging's opinion, if his mother tasted the egg fried rice, she would definitely give him a membership card. Then, Sun Donging waved his hand towards Sun's mother and said, "Mom, I'll go back now." "Yes, drive slowly." "Got it." When Sun Donging left, the son's mother sighed deeply and walked back to the house. Seeing that Sun Ming was coughing non-stop, her expression turned bitter, and quickly patted on Sun Ming's back lightly. "Why are you angry at your child?" Sun's mother said in a choked voice. "Cough cough." Sigh. Sun Ming coughed for a while, then took away the handkerchief in his hand. There were a few streaks of fresh red blood in the center of his hand, causing Sun Ming to sigh deeply and say, "I'm not angry, I'm just anxious. I don't have much time left. If he continues like this, then the company will lose all hope. The company has closed down. What about your lives? How about telling Xiao Heng?" Sun's mother said with his eyes red. Sun Ming sighed and shook his head slightly. The next morning, not long after Zhang Han opened the door, the manager of the neighborhood shop walked in, and lightly nodded towards Zhang Han as he sat at a table in the corner. "Boss, 1 egg fried rice?" the manager asked. "About half an hour." Zhang Han replied, "All right." A few minutes after he entered, a silver white horse, Z4, pulled up in front of the restaurant. "Mom, I promise you that you will definitely have a surprise later." Sun Donging welcomed Sun's mother out of the carriage with a smile. "All right, then I'll have a taste of it later." Sun's mother smiled slightly. Her personality was very gentle, and she had the demeanor of a lady. Before entering, she purposely looked at the notice board in front of the door. When she found out that the opening hours and the high price of the membership card were already up, her gaze couldn't help but reveal a bit of curiosity. She did not understand why such a small restaurant would be so strange. "Good morning, boss. Where is Meng Meng?" Sun Donging greeted, and seeing that Meng Meng was not at the first floor, he asked, I'm here." Suddenly, Meng Meng, who was lying on the sofa and playing on the side, sat up. "Oh he, so she was hiding somewhere." "Good morning, little Princess Meng Meng," Sun Donging said with a smile. All right." Meng Meng waved her arms and replied, "So cute, so cute, so beautiful." Sun's mother's eyes were immediately filled with love. She really liked children, especially a child with outstanding genes like Meng Meng. "Of course, the boss is amazing. It's only right that his daughter is so pretty." Sun Donging laughed and said, "Come, mother, sit here." They sat down and waited in silence. On the other hand, Sun's mother looked around at the decorations of the dining hall. She recognized the luxurious TV background wall, but she did not know much about the Steinway piano. From the layout of the house, she felt that the owner had good taste. When it was 7 o'clock, the small white dining table was fully filled. People started to line up in the small chairs outside the window. "Why didn't they come in? Isn't there a seat there?" Sun's mother asked curiously. "Mom, this is what I told you. Only members can sit there. Look, those 4 are the first batch of members here." Sun Donging pointed outside. Sun's mother looked over. Liang Mengkai and the other 2 got off from the Volkswagen, while Zhao Feng also got off from his Toyota. A few of them came in and greeted Zhang Han and Meng Meng. Very soon, at 7:20, there were already a dozen of customers waiting at the door. Sun's mother couldn't help but feel that the food in this restaurant was really not bad. But she was wrong. When she tasted the first mouthful of egg fried rice, she finally understood what the real egg fried rice was. She also finally understood why Sun Donging urgently wanted the membership cards here. It was because the egg fried rice, it was too fragrant. Sun's mother enjoyed it while her heart was filled with bitterness. She had cooked at home for dozens of years and had never cooked such a fragrant meal before. How did he do it? Sun's mother was full of doubts. After finishing the egg fried rice, Sun's mother closed his eyes and savored the aftertaste for 2 minutes. "Mom, try some milk," Sun Donging said with a smile on his face. "Yes." Sun's mother lifted her cup and drank her first mouthful of milk. "This milk, gurgle gurgle." Sun's mother finished all the milk in one breath, and then looked at Sun Donging in a daze. Mom, how was it?" How was the egg fried rice? Is the milk good to drink? Sun Donging said with a look of anticipation. It had to be known that everyone was shocked the most when they ate in this restaurant for the first time. After that, they became addicted to the delicacies here. The shock in their hearts would also disappear and be replaced with deep anticipation. It's really delicious, really delicious. Sun's mother sincerely said, "The boss here is so amazing. This is the first time I've seen such a delicious meal. The taste of the milk is also very strong and delicious, but if it's so fragrant, there must be something wrong with it. Could it be that something has been added to the meal?" She had read before that some kind of delicacy was extremely delicious. In the end, she found out that there was a chemical additive inside that was extremely harmful to the body. Seeing her expression, Sun Donging laughed and said, "Hey, Mom, you can put your heart in your stomach. The food here is delicious because of the inherent problems. The boss has said before, the Thai fragrant rice and the North American wild rice can't compare to his rice, and you see, the boss's daughter also eats like this. Do you think that as a father, he will make the child eat badly? Also, that cute little princess is called Meng Meng, and this restaurant was opened by the owner for his daughter. What about my dad? Don't say that. Your dad cares a lot about you." Sun's mother said gently, "Your father specifically gave me a bank card this morning. Inside it is the money for you to apply for a membership card." "Oh." Sun Donging replied somewhat depressingly. "Let's go, we'll register for your membership card." Sun's mother laughed and pulled Sun Donging's hand to the counter. Chapter 67, Go Buy a Car. On the way. At this time, Zhang Han carried Meng Meng to the small sofa beside the piano and prepared to play 2 pieces of the piano. "Boss, pay up," the son's mother said softly. "Put it on the counter." Zhang Han casually waved his hand. "I still need to register for a membership card," the son's mother said. "Oh." Zhang Han nodded and walked over. He took out his bank card from the drawer and said, "Transferring the funds will do." "All right. May I ask if one membership card can be eaten by 3 people?" Sun's mother asked as she took out his phone. "No." "Then what kind of food is a member's food? And when will you be able to taste more?" Sun's mother asked again. "Not necessarily." "Does the member accept an appointment? Can you eat at another time of the day?" Sun's mother was a little hesitant. This restaurant seemed to have the potential to be a underworld restaurant. If it wasn't for the fact that the food was really delicious, Sun's mother would have definitely turned around and left. "I don't accept appointments. The opening hours are written at the entrance. Sometimes, it might not be open." Zhang Han answered truthfully. This. Sun's mother's expression froze. Mom, the boss member meal is even better, and it's also always done. Since we've already cooked the usual dishes and dumplings at home, it looks really delicious, and the boss also said that from now on, there will only be more and more delicacies. The first 10 members will be sold cheaply. Sun Donging said in a somewhat anxious tone. "Then I'll buy 3 membership cards." Sun's mother pondered for a moment. Although he felt that the price was quite expensive, he was still unable to resist the temptation of the delicacies. After transferring money to Zhang Han's account, Zhang Han took out a membership card from the drawer. 5, 6, 7, great. I finally have a membership card. Sun Donging beamed with joy as he took out the number 5 membership card as if it was a treasure. "Let's go back first. Call your dad over tonight and have a taste." The son's mother smiled. "All right." With a membership card, Sun Donging was elated and smiled as he nodded in agreement. Originally, Sun Donging wanted to sit and listen to Zhang Han play the 2 piano pieces. But when he turned his head, he saw that the table he was sitting at was occupied. So he left with his mother. He had forgotten that he was already a member of the restaurant and that he could sit as a member. At 8:30, the customers left one after another. Zhao Zhu and Zhao Feng cleaned up the restaurant before leaving. Ding! Zhang Han's phone rang. This was Xian's daily call. "Zhang Han." Yes. It was a uniform start, but this time, Xian said with a happy tone, "I could finish my work tomorrow noon. I plan to take a stroll in Linhai. What kind of gift do you think I should bring to Meng Meng? Buy whatever you want. Zhang Han answered casually. How can I do whatever I want? I have to give her the gift that she wants the most. In this way, every time I return after finishing my work, Meng Meng will look forward to it. Xian moaned and said, do you know if there's anything that Meng Meng has been wanting? There's nothing special she wants. Oh yeah, I plan to take her to buy a set of colorful brushes today. That's what she really wants. Zhang Han thought about it and replied, colorful brush set? Okay, I got it. Don't buy it for Meng Meng. I will buy a whole set and take it back with me. It's fine if you go back to the Hong Kong to buy it. Zhang Han did not know whether to laugh or cry. That won't do. The meaning is different. HMPH. Only a brute like you won't understand human feelings. Xian snorted and said, all right. Give me a call to Meng Meng. I want to chat with my daughter. Yes. Zhang Han shook his head, walked to the sofa and handed the phone over to Meng Meng. Mama? Meng Meng blinked her large and clear eyes, and after she received the phone, the little princess said sweetly, Mama, Mama, when will you come back? I misses you. This conversation would probably take a while. When the two were chatting, Zhang Han was free. He sat in front of his laptop, planning to check the progress of the song he posted on internet. If Li Fan were to know of this scene, he would definitely mutter to himself with incomparable nervousness, hurry up and come up with the software, hurry up and come up with the software. Brother, I'm begging you, hurry up and open it. However, just as Zhang Han was about to open the software, a guest came into the restaurant. The guest attracted Zhang Han's attention. He stood up and walked over. Sir, here are the 20 photos you requested. The staff member of Photo Studio handed over the long box with a smile. Yes. Zhang Han smiled as he received the box. Then, mister, I'll take my leave. If you want to take photos in the future, please pay a visit to our studio. The staff member smiled and said goodbye before leaving. Zhang Han placed the box on the table and opened it. Inside was a large picture. Mom. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I want to look at beautiful photographs with Papa. Seeing that, Meng Meng's eyes lit up, and said with a childish voice, photographs. Xian was slightly taken aback. Just when he wanted to say something, a beep beep sound came from the phone. You're hanging up again? Xian was furious in his heart. Meng Meng learned to hang up on me. Muttering, a hint of worry surfaced in Xian's eyes. Meng Meng seemed to be getting better and better with her Papa. Then, one day, would Meng Meng still be able to leave Zhang Han? Would she leave and follow Zhang Han? What should he do then? Without Meng Meng, Xian didn't even dare to think what she would do. She wanted to finish work as soon as possible and return to properly look after Meng Meng. Moreover, she also wanted to bring Meng Meng back to the Union Garden and let her leave for a few days. She didn't want Meng Meng to rely too much on Zhang Han. Of course, all this worry stemmed from a lack of sense of security. If a woman did not have a sense of security, she would naturally let her imagination run wild. Furthermore, it was not easy for Xian to foster Meng Meng. It must be known that raising a 3.5-year-old baby was an extremely tiring task. Anyone with experience in this field would definitely know that a baby was the hardest to take care of. Compared to the worried atmosphere around Xian, the inside of Meng Meng's casual restaurant was really peaceful. Papa, this photo looks really good, you have to put it on. Meng Meng looked at the first photo. It was a photo of Meng Meng and Papa. Okay, put this one up. Zhang Han said with a light smile. This is also good. Papa is so handsome, you have to put it on. This is also good. Meng Meng pouted. Papa pouted too. Hee. And this. I want this too. This is also good to look at. Very quickly, Meng Meng commented all 20 pictures. In Meng Meng's eyes, whether it was his own or her picture with Papa, they were both very beautiful. Zhang Han didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said, Meng Meng, we only have 14 picture frames, so we can only choose 14 of them. No. Meng Meng pouted when she heard it. and said unhappily, "You all have to hang on it, these are all nice to watch." Sure, everyone hangs up. Zhang Han laughed and said, "Listen to Meng Meng, okay, alright." Meng Meng immediately became happy again, and she chuckled, "Papa is the best, ha ha ha." Zhang Han shook his head and laughed, "We can hang 14 on the first floor, there are still 6 left. Why don't we pick one and hang it on the second floor, so we can see our pictures on the first and second floors?" Okay. Meng Meng thought it over and agreed. She and Papa picked the 6 photos that were to be put on the stairs and chose for an hour. In the end, Zhang Han placed 8 photos of him and Meng Meng on the first floor's piano side, and 6 separate photos of Meng Meng were taken on the other wall. Of the 6 photos left on the second floor, 2 of the photos were taken together with 4 separate photos of Meng Meng. "Papa, there's no such thing as frame on the second floor," Meng Meng said as she pointed to the big black picture frame on the wall with her little hand. "Then let's go out and buy a few picture frames," Zhang Han said. "All right, let's go to the shopping mall. Buy. Meng Meng really liked shopping with the Papa. Every time she had gone to the mall with Mama, she wanted to have snacks, but Mama had only bought her a few, and she had always bought a limited amount of toys. As Xian's saying, children could not recklessly buy something. But when it came to Zhang Han later on, this guy was done. Snack, buy, toy, buy. This really made Meng Meng experience the true essence of shopping. Every shopping cart was full to the brim. But relatively speaking, buying toys and other things to play was a bit more. Zhang Han wouldn't buy her too much snacks, but Zhang Han would say that, "Meng Meng, after you eating these snacks out, we will buy more." That made Meng Meng pleased. However, every time she finished eating, Zhang Han would only go to the supermarket after some days. He would not let Meng Meng eat too many snacks. Right now, when Meng Meng heard that they were going out to buy clothes, she was overjoyed. She followed Papa upstairs to change her clothes, then went downstairs to his car and drove to the nearby shopping mall. Go buy a car. Zhang Han pondered for a moment. This Jeep Wrangler that he rented was only a temporary car. He did not have enough money in the beginning, so he did not buy it. Now, Zhang Han had over 6 million in his bank card, which was enough to buy a car. In these 4 days of operation, Zhang Han earned more than 7 million and sold 7 membership cards. After deducting the 1 million that was spent on membership cards, he deposited about 6,300,000. But Zhang Han did not care about the exact amount of money. Moreover, if you bought a car, you could buy most of the cars with 6 million. Of course, there were even more expensive ones such as the Rolls-Royce Phantom Shadow, the Aston Martin which were worth tens of millions, and various supercars which were worth tens of millions. But Zhang Han did not plan to buy them. If it was in the past, Zhang Han might be chasing after luxurious cars, but now, Zhang Han could only give a light smile. Chapter 68. Meng Meng loves panda. That year, Han Yang Immortal's usual vehicle was rode the 9 Dragons chariot when he wanted to go out. The 9 Dragons chariot was a high-end treasure in the cultivation world. How could ordinary cars compare to it? With different perspectives, the goal would be different as well. Even if a Lamborghini and a Jetta were placed together, in Zhang Han's eyes, they are the same, just cars. Meng Meng, let's go buy a car first, then buy a photo frame. Okay. Zhang Han was always rather casual, doing whatever he wanted to do, looking at Meng Meng from the rear view mirror and asking, buy a toy car? Meng Meng's eyes lit up. That's not it. Zhang Han didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said, it's a car, like the one that Daddy is driving now. Oh. Meng Meng thought for a while, then answered with her childish voice, listen to Papa. The little princess was not very interested in driving a car, but was very happy to be with Papa. Then let's go buy a car first. While Zhang Han was waiting for a red light, He took out his phone and checked the location of the Automobile City. Automobile City is a kind of car market that collects many car dealers and car brands in the same site and forms a centralized and diversified trading place. It includes various brands and types, which is convenient to buy a car, with such advantages as wide choice, convenient to serve, standard of management, a combination of consultation, car selection, loan, insurance, trading, acquisition and service. After finding the location, Zhang Han rushed towards the direction of the car city. The Hong Kong was a paradise for the rich, and a hell for the workers. At the front desk behind the main gate of the car city stood more than a dozen of buyers. They were all waiting to receive guests, and also according to the way they queued to keep them serve the customers orderly. Every time after they served a customer and returned to line to queue, they would also get a moment to rest. Aku, the woman ranking the first, suddenly sneezed. From the looks of her face, she seemed to have caught a cold. Lili, how did you catch a cold? A man at the back said. Don't mention it, it was a bit cold when I accompanied a customer taking the test drive yesterday. Lili sighed lightly. Hee, it's because you're wearing too little, aren't you trying to seduce the customer and failed? Another man quipped. Piss off. Lili rolled his eyes in annoyance. Guests are coming. It's a Jeep Wrangler. The man who spoke had sharp eyes. After staring at the blue paint on the car license plate and tires, he said, rented car, this person might have casually driven here to buy a car. Lili, so this deal will probably work. Aku. Lili snorted lightly, looked at the other ponytail girl behind him and said, Xuanhuan, why don't you take this one? I want to rest for a while. Oh, okay. The girl called Xuanhuan nodded and stood up to welcome the customer. Well, how could the person who rented the car be a rich person? Lili shook her head and sighed. The men behind shook their heads and silently smiled. As a professional sealer, naturally she had a good eyesight. The man could tell that Zhang Han had rented a car with a glance, and also checked Zhang Han for a few times. His outfits was also above average, but the little girl in his arms, who seemed to be dressed in jeans, was rather fashionable. These news made old sailor feel that Zhang Han was not a wealthy person. He might not necessarily come here to buy a car. It was possible for him to buy some parts, or even some other things after sale. Lili was a little tired from the cold and did not want to be busy in vain, so she sent the Xuanhuan behind to receive him. Xuanhuan was a newbie, so she did not understand the various rules and directly agreed. After going over to greet them, she had a warm smile on her face. Hello sir, welcome to Wheelly City. Would you like to see a car or? We came to see the car. Meng raised her small hand and answered. What a beautiful little girl. Xuanhuan could not help but praise her. Facing such praise, Meng was more or less immune to it. Sir, do you have any models that you like? The Xuanhuan asked with a smile. No, just take a look. Zhang Han replied indifferently. All right sir, this way please. The Xuanhuan said with a smile. He was slightly faster than Zhang Han and took the lead to walk towards the right side of the carriage. Sir, our city has a total of 36 brands, with all kinds of low, medium, and high-end cars. Look, this car over here is the latest generation of mass meeting. It's very cost-effective and also quite a popular car. Seeing Zhang Han turn his head slightly, Xuanhuan immediately took the lead and walked a few steps forward. He pointed to the car at the side and said, this carriage is meant for the Volkswagen. Zhang Han carried Meng and kept walking forward, passing through the area filled with Volkswagen and arriving at the Buick section. After a while, they headed to the Ford section. Meng, did you see those cars that you liked just now? Zhang Han smiled and asked. Ugh. I can't remember what it looks like. So many. Meng pouted. Then let's take a look at the SUVs, only the higher end. Zhang Han nodded, and said while looking at Xuanhuan. All right sir, this way please. Xuanhuan's eyes lit up. Looking at Zhang Han's indifferent attitude, it seemed as if he was really here to buy a car. Xuanhuan took the lead and walked towards the SUV area, and started introducing it very professionally. It's a high-end SUV. Look at this one, it's a Babos M grade. This is the Cadillac Caled. Sir, how about the new BMW X5 and BMW X6? That's Audi Q7. Xuanhuan introduced a lot while she sized up Zhang Han's expression, but Zhang Han had a calm expression the entire time, which made Xuanhuan unable to guess what Zhang Han was thinking. After he had seen enough, Zhang Han asked Meng Meng again, Meng, did you like the ones that you saw just now? Ugh. Everything's fine, it looks like it's about the same. Meng thought about it and replied. Of the father and daughter pair, Zhang Han was very casual, he could buy any kind of car he wanted. Meng was not very interested in the big car, so this time, buying a car was bound to be a waste of time. Even the Xuanhuan beside him felt her mouth going dry. Let's go take a look at the sports car. Zhang Han said indifferently, all right sir, this way please. Xuanhuan smiled and nodded. This BMW Z4 is a classic. This is Porsche 911. There's a Porsche 458 over there. This Maserati GT, what do you think? And that Lamborghini. After looking around, Zhang Han looked at Meng again, and asked, is there a car you like? Under the Xuanhuan's anticipating gaze, Meng thought for a while, then pouted her lips and replied, no. Meng's answer couldn't help but cause Xuanhuan to feel somewhat discouraged. They had already walked more than half of the car city and had pretty much seen enough cars. If they are not interested in any of them, then they would probably be blown away. Xuanhuan even suspected that if Zhang Han really came to buy a car. But in the next moment, Meng's words gave her hope. Meng looked around with her clear and large eyes, suddenly raised her arm, and pointed forward, saying, Papa, that car looks really good. Oh? Zhang Han and Xuanhuan's gaze followed the direction that the small palm was pointing at. When Xuanhuan saw the carriage, her heart jumped and she became excited again. Let's go take a look, Zhang Han said, and took the lead to walk towards the carriage. Xuanhuan quickly followed and said with a warm smile, Sir, this car is the extended version of the peak creation of the Land Rover. Its capacity is 5.0 mechanical engine, its maximum horsepower is 550 horsepower, and the 100 km acceleration is 5.2 seconds. This is a car that was recently produced. It is also the most luxurious car in the Land Rover series. We all call it the most luxurious SUV in the world, and judging from its overbearing strength, it really suits you. Not bad, not bad. Zhang Han's gaze was still calm, but it was also the first time that he had said something to praise her. Yes, sir. The interior of this car is also very luxurious. Seeing that there was hope, Xuanhuan was prepared to properly introduce this carriage, but the little princess' childish voice ruthlessly interrupted her. No, number. It's not this. It's that. That's the one that's pretty. Meng pointed to a spot not far away from the Land Rover. When Xuanhuan looked over, her expression froze. There was a very cute-looking Geely Panda. Let's go take a look. Zhang Han smiled lightly. The Xuanhuan's mood dropped from the peak to the bottom, and she felt unspeakably uncomfortable. However, she still said respectfully, this car is a Geely Panda, its front face is designed with a large mouth, and the entire face gives off a very cute feeling. This car is a cute version, and its price is 35,950. The Xuanhuan began to explain the information she told him, which Zhang Han naturally understood. In the past, Zhang Han had studied cars before, and there were a dozen or so super sports cars. Although he was a little casual about cars now, it seemed that the car's configuration was still a little low. Papa, this looks nice. Don't you think it looks like a giant panda? It's so cute, so cute. Meng chuckled. Then buy this one. Zhang Han smiled lightly and said to the Xuanhuan, all right. The Xuanhuan smiled and said, sir, this way please. I will bring you to pay. Yes. Zhang Han followed Xuanhuan to the trading hall. When he was about to sign the bill, Zhang Han suddenly raised his head and asked, "Can I change the car here?" Refit. Xuanhuan was startled. He did not understand much about this matter and subconsciously looked at the old employee in charge of this transaction. "Yes, it can be modified. I will call the master over." "Sir, can you help me with that?" the old employee said with a smile. "Yes." After waiting for 5 minutes, a man in his 40s wearing a blue uniform walked over. He nodded to the old employee and looked at Zhang Han. "Mr. Bortajili Panda, may I know how sir wishes to change it?" "Refit it to the best." Zhang Han's words caused the few people present to be slightly stunned. "Sir, there's no limit to how much you can modify." He did not know how much the buyer of the Geely Panda would be willing to spend to modify it. Chapter 69, Modification. When Zhang Han decided to buy the car, Xuanhuan was confused, because she thought that he was a petty rich man. However, now that he wanted to talk about modifying the car, no matter how much money it cost, as long as it was sold by her, it would be considered as her performance. Thinking about it, she felt a little exciting in her heart. Money is money, but she didn't expect that the surprise would come so suddenly. The shape of the car can be moved slightly. It looks more like a Panda, cute, engine, interior etc. "I want the best one," Zhang Han muttered to himself. "The best." The craftsman thought for a bit, looked at Zhang Han's face, and said with a hesitant tone, "If it's the engine, I can exchange it with Audi A8L for you. But regarding the price doesn't matter. What I want is the appearance of this car. I want the best configuration, so you can make a list now," Zhang Han said. "Oh, okay, please wait a moment. I'll write it down for you now." The skilled worker's eyes lit up. He picked up a pen and began writing. 15 minutes later, a list was placed before Zhang Han's eyes. Xuanhuan glanced at it from the side. She did not really understand those complicated parts, but she clearly saw the 17 million transaction price at the end of the list. 1,700,000. Xuanhuan's heart jumped. She was once again excited. After all, selling it for 1.7 million, she could get quite a bit of commission. "Okay, just modify according to what you have written. I'll give you 2 million, and help me take care of the license plate and the film, and then send it to the New Moon Bay Meng's casual restaurant tomorrow." Zhang Han looked at it for a few seconds. He understood the details of the system well, and felt satisfied and nodded his head. "All right, mister, then how do we write this order?" the technician asked, swallowing his saliva. "Do whatever you want." All of a sudden, everyone's eyes lit up, and in the end, they gave Zhang Han the order for the sum of 1.8 million, but if the price was 2 million, then the extra 200,000 was equivalent to a tip. After that, he began to process some documents, made a few copies of his identity card, signed some documents, and after the work was done, it was already 12 o'clock. After taking care of all of this, Zhang Han left the city with Meng, and headed towards the nearby shopping mall to buy picture frames. Xuanhuan, on the other hand, brought along Zhang Han to sell. She chatted with the old employees who were involved in the transaction and the technical masters for a while, and in the end, about the 200,000, Xuanhuan and the technical masters got 90,000 each, and 20,000 for the old employees who were involved in the transaction, could also be considered as having a share. The Xuanhuan returned to the stage happily. Not only would she receive 90,000 for this trade list, she would also receive a commission for 1.8 million. However, compared to 90,000, it was much less. "Xuanhuan, you sold a car? Is it the customer just now?" Lilai asked as she turned around. She had already received a seemingly rich customer, but that person just left after asking around. The other sealers behind her were all the same. Car salesmen didn't sell cars every day and sometimes can only sold 1 or 2 cars a month and sometimes didn't even sell a single car a month. When they saw Lilai bring the customer that had just come to the transaction center with her, so it was most likely that she must have sold something, Lilai could not help but ask. "Well, he did. He bought a car." The Xuanhuan replied with a smile. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed slightly as they looked at Xuanhuan with some envy. Lilai was even more regretful. He should have been her customer after all, and she had given up just like that. What kind of car did he buy? Lilai took a deep breath and asked. Not only her, but the others also looked over, waiting for Xuanhuan's answer. For a moment, the atmosphere on the field was somewhat tense. Under everyone's gaze, the Xuanhuan smiled and replied honestly, I bought a car filled with Geely Panda, but, however, before she could finish his sentence, a soft laugh could be heard. Geely Panda. That's fine too. It's better than nothing. No matter what, we can still eat a few decent midnight snacks with the commission. Everyone said something to each other. Although there was no irony in their tone, there was still a trace of contempt and relief in their tone. Even Lilai felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. The regret in her heart had disappeared a lot, but Xuanhuan's next sentence stupefied her. I haven't finished. Xuanhuan curled her lips and said, he bought the Geely Panda, but he intends to modify it. So the total price he bid for it is 1.8 million. What? Refit. A total of 1.8 million? Damn, this is too badass. 1,800,000 Geely Panda. Congratulations, Xuanhuan, you really earned easy from signing this deal. Amazing. That customer really has a unique taste. That price is enough to buy a luxury car. In the Hong Kong, there were no customs duties, so the prices of the cars were much cheaper than those in the mainland. However, there were a lot of taxes on the cars bought in the Hong Kong, such as the 1.8 meters cars, which cost around 500,000 yuan. If that was the case, the prices of the cars would be relatively more expensive than in the mainland. 1,800,000, my god. Lilai almost bit her own tongue. This is too exaggerated. A car worth over 30,000 RMB has to be converted into a luxury grade of 1.8 million RMB. Could it be that that person wants to play a low-key luxury game? A man muttered softly, feeling that this matter was extremely inconceivable. The Geely Panda walked with the cute style. No matter how he changed it, it wouldn't be that luxurious. It's not that the customer's taste is special. It's just that his daughter likes that car, and that man felt that the configuration was too low, so he changed it to the best one. The Xuanhuan explained, and then looked at Lilai, and laughed. Sister Li, how about we split the commission? When these words came out, everyone's eyes immediately looked over. Some were surprised, some were amazed, and some were incredulous. However, they all understand why at the same time. In this business of selling, without an old person to guide you through, it would be too difficult for a new person to go through. With an old person to carry you through, it would definitely be much easier. The actions of the Xuanhuan opened up a door to enter the old sales circle. Old sales knew that money wasn't earned by one person, and fighting alone was definitely not as powerful as being in a team. Lilai was truly surprised and moved. She had already accepted the Xuanhuan as a new employee. The Xuanhuan did not mention anything about the 200,000 tips. In her opinion, the 90,000 tips should be considered a huge surprise, and she was okay to split the commission, and by which she could obtain their likings, and being together with the old sales would make her path much easier in the future. Zhang Han and Meng strolled around the shopping mall and bought 6 photo frames and a few random things. When they drove back to the dining hall, they could see from afar that there were already more than 20 people sitting in the chairs in front of the dining hall. Seeing that, Zhang Han could not help but laugh bitterly. Looking at the time, it was already 13:10. This group of gluttons had probably been waiting for over an hour. At this moment, a more interesting scene occurred in the spicy dishes restaurant next door. The waitress was at the door, making small talk to lure customers. The food is not expensive anymore. Come quickly and taste it. However, her shout didn't attract anyone over. At the same time that she shouted, her gaze was a little stunned as she looked at the familiar figure in the line of people. Their manager. Ouch, why did our manager join the queue too? Inside the restaurant, 3 male waiters were standing in front of the door watching their manager line up to eat at someone else's place. They felt a strange sensation in their hearts. The manager said just now that he was checking the enemy. But didn't the manager just went there this morning? That's right. After he returns, he was distracted for the entire morning. I wonder what's going on. It's just noon and the manager has already lined up. It's already been an hour and he still hasn't come back to take a look. Could it be that his family's food is really delicious? Now that you mention it, I think it's possible. Think about it. If it doesn't taste good, would they dare to sell it for 300 yuan? That's true. I have to go and have my lunch tomorrow. Count me in. As their manager, he wanted to praise them greatly after he returned from eating the egg fried rice. However, due to the fact that the restaurant was adjacent to each other and they were competitors, the manager didn't say anything. Still not coming back? After a while, he would go to work. But what could he do? Do I go back hungry at noon? Why isn't the boss back yet? Where the hell did he go? What do we do? I'm so hungry that my chest is sticking to my back. Oh, the taste is not expensive. Come and try it. Why don't everyone come to my house to have a taste? The egg fried rice in my house is also very delicious. The waitress tried saying. When she said this, the manager felt his heart turn dry. His restaurant does have egg fried rice, but the taste, the difference between them was like the difference between heaven and earth. Little sister, stop shouting. We only want to eat egg fried rice. I don't want anything but egg fried rice and milk. Even if I'm hungry, I won't eat anything else. I only want the egg fried rice. Although everyone was hungry, their thoughts were firm, unwavering. Oh, where did the boss go? Liang Mengkai lowered his head and said, he has probably been busy himself. He'll probably be back soon. Zhao Feng smiled slightly. Oh, I'm here. Isn't that the boss's car? Yu Qingqing's eyes suddenly caught sight of the Jeep Shepherd and shouted excitedly. Swish. Everyone's gaze that was like a hungry wolf all turned over. After they saw Zhang Han get off the car, they all stood up and started to complain. Good heavens. Boss, you're finally back. I've been waiting so hard. We are all going to starve to death if you don't come back. Zhang Han held onto the photo with his left hand and a few other items as he stretched out his right pinky. Grasping Papa's pinky with his small hand, Meng walked over while smiling with small steps. Chapter 70. Waiting is suffering. At first, there were a few people who were very anxious, but after seeing the cute and beautiful little princess, the impatience in their hearts gradually disappeared. Everyone liked beauty, and Meng was the most beautiful and cute little girl they had ever seen. When Zhang Han opened the door, a lot of people in line anxiously said, "Excuse me, we have to go to work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We don't have enough time. Can we make it a takeout?" Zhang Han nodded when he heard this, and said, "All right." Only now did everyone feel relieved. 8179.47. After entering the dining hall, Liang Mengkai, Yang and the other two sat at the same table as and Sun's mother. Sun Dongying and Sun's mother sat at the neighboring table. "Boss, where did you go? Why did you come back so late?" Liang Mengkai asked curiously. "I went to buy the photo frame," Zhang Han replied with a smile, then casually placed the photo frame to the side. "Papa, I want to see an animated film." Meng took small steps and ran to the front of the sofa. She jumped up and climbed onto the sofa, then turned around and spoke to Zhang Han. "I'm on it." Zhang Han nodded and walked over to switch on the television. There was no need to change the channel. It had only broadcasted a single channel, the children's channel. After that, Zhang Han opened his notebook and placed the music on it, preparing to make lunch. He hadn't prepared any ingredients yet, but his lunch was still egg fried rice and milk. When Zhang Han left the cafeteria in the morning, the rice had already been cooked regularly. After he picked up the rice, Zhang Han started to prepare the supplementary ingredients, such as eggs, onions. "Papa." Meng was a little hungry. I don't even have the strength to watch TV. Meng turned and said with her sweet voice, "The food is almost ready." Meng, don't be anxious. Zhang Han hurriedly said. However, when Meng Meng said this, Liang Mengkai and the others' gazes instantly landed on the kitchen, because whenever this happened, Zhang Han would cook at an unimaginable speed. His movements were fluid and natural. This was a type of visual enjoyment. They looked over, and the others also looked over with curiosity. Zhang Han quickly turned on the electric stove and started to heat up the milk. At the same time, his right hand drew a kitchen knife from the knife holder and his left hand simultaneously placed 4 green onions on the cutting board. Bang! 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 An urgent sound rang out as the saber light dazzled the eyes. In just 2 seconds, a few of the green onions had been chopped. Zhang Han immediately threw the kitchen knife upwards. This scene caused everyone's hearts to skip a beat. What? Throw a kitchen knife? No. However, the next scene caused everyone to take in a breath of cold air. He saw the kitchen knife spin twice in the air before inserting itself into the knife's groove. Oh my god! Zhao Du's mouth was agape, and he said in shock, "This is the first time I've seen such a technique. This is too amazing." Liang Mengkai's eyes were wide open. Wow, he is getting more and more handsome. Mom. Sun Donging said excitedly, "Did you see that?" "Ha ha, Mom, let me tell you, what you saw was just the tip of the iceberg. He is so powerful, it's hard to imagine." Amongst them, only Yu Qingqing and Zhao Feng had a slightly complicated look in their eyes. Zhao Feng was once again shocked by Zhang Han's technique. I still underestimated his strength. Just this move alone already showed his control over his strength, and his accuracy in angle. He is already at the peak of perfection, so terrifying like this. Sigh, I had thought that I could last a minute against him. But I didn't think that boss would be speaking the truth. Not just them, even the 6 people sitting at the small white table exclaimed in admiration. Amidst their exclamations of surprise, Zhang Han had already started to cook the egg fried rice with the 2 wok pots. The frying pan was not light either. With so much food added inside, it was still somewhat heavy, but the frying pan felt really light in Zhang Han's hands. Add a series of spices. 3 minutes later, the egg fried rice was ready to serve. Zhang Han served himself and Meng Meng, and placed them at the round table. Without needing to mention anything about the others, they had already started to line up to fill the rice. When Meng Meng sat at the dining table and saw the lonely egg fried rice, she said in her sweet voice, "Papa, why is there only rice?" Meng Meng wants to eat the dishes made by the papa. He wants to eat that. The long eggplant, and Meng Meng really wants to eat all the dishes made by papa. When she said that, the eyes of Liang Mengkai, Yu Qingqing, Zhao Du, Zhao Feng, and the others who had tried the rice all lit up. They all looked at Meng Meng, and subconsciously swallowed their saliva. "Sure, then Daddy will cook for you tonight." Zhang Han laughed and said, "All right, Papa is the best." Meng Meng gave Zhang Han a kiss on the air, causing him to smile. Of course, the 4 people behind also had smiles on their faces. They looked at each other, and all of them happily smiled as they muttered in their hearts, "Meng Meng is great. Meng Meng is the best." Or, "Little princess, in the future, say more things like this." Everyone knew in their hearts that their 100 sentences of 1,000 words could not even compare to the few words that Meng Meng had said. They even felt that as long as Meng Meng spoke, it didn't matter if he was flying in the sky, running on the ground, or swimming in the water. Zhang Han would always bring food for his daughter. Sigh. Meng Meng is really blessed. The few of them sighed in their hearts. The restaurant started to serve food. People outside also started to line up to pick up the food which they would bring with them. Basically, everyone had to have at least 1 serving of egg fried rice and 2 cups of milk. It was just like an auto supermarket. When people is done eating, they put the money on the checkout counter, and Zhang Han didn't care to check the money. However, no one would pay less here. They felt that if they cheated, it would be a blasphemy to the god-tier fried rice with eggs. The restaurant's opening hours were short. After half an hour, It was not even 2 in the afternoon and most of the customers in the restaurant had already left. Only Liang Mengkai and the rest were still drinking their milk leisurely. Changed the picture. Liang Mengkai suddenly saw a series of photos on the wall. He could not help but be surprised, as she put down the milk and stood up to check. Wow, she's so beautiful. When Zhao Du saw the photo of Meng Meng on the side of the piano, she could not help but exclaim out loud. The photo of Meng Meng and the owner is really too lovable, Yu Qingqing said with a face full of envy. Facing the praises of the few people, Meng Meng was a little happy as she started to hum a song. Those pictures. Meng Meng could even see them clearly, especially the picture of her together with the papa. It looked really good. After observing for a while, Zhao Du and Zhao Feng started to act as waiters again, cleaning up the dining hall. Maybe it had been out of goodwill for the first 2 times, but now they were getting used to it. Next door, at the Spicy Dishes restaurant. Burp. The manager burped and rubbed his stomach as he walked into the room. He had eaten 3 servings of egg fried rice and drank 5 cups of milk in the afternoon. The money he spent on this meal was equivalent to the amount of money he spent on a feast. Manager, how delicious is his restaurant's food? One of the waiters asked quietly. So delicious. Cough cough. Why are you asking so many questions? Go to work. The manager coughed lightly and waved his hand. Oh, manager, just tell me about it. The waitress said in a slightly coquettish tone. Yeah, manager. Seeing as you're so satisfied, there's definitely something going on. Manager, can you tell me if it's tasty or not? The few of them gathered in front of the manager and whispered. The manager's expression froze for a moment and he muttered to himself. Under the gazes of the others, he nodded heavily and said, it's not delicious. It was so fucking delicious. Let me tell you, that egg fried rice is so fragrant that it can't be described. Oh, fuck, so amazing. Do you know that there are already 7 members in that restaurant? Oh my god, 7 million. But the boss is really awesome, right? The boss is very handsome, cooking is like a show. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. His daughter, even if she is beautiful to the point of being invincible, and there's even milk, so delicious. My god, I've never drunk milk so delicious. I'll tell you guys. Since the manager had already made his decision, he wanted to say it all. The waiters listened as if they were in a dream, their eyes turning green. Listening to the manager's tone, only immortals could taste the egg fried rice, so they planned to go over to have a taste at night no matter what. In the dining hall, Liang Mengkai and the other 3 did not plan to leave. Since it was 2 in the afternoon and dinner time was around 6, they would stay in the dining hall for a few hours. They were just standing there, but Zhang Han had something important to do. Meng, let's go upstairs to change and go play in Mount New Moon. Zhang Han chuckled. Meng was startled, then her eyes lit up and raised her little hand. Oh, go look for little Hai to play. Meng's cheers caught Liang Mengkai's attention, causing her to immediately put down the phone and say, boss, I want to go as well. She couldn't stop thinking about the illusory Mount New Moon-ness after her last visit. Now that she had the chance, she didn't plan on letting it go. Okay. Zhang Han nodded and carried Meng to the 2nd floor. Is the Mount New Moon very fun? Yu Qingqing asked without even raising her head as she played the game. Of course, that was the fairyland that the boss had created for Meng. Liang Mengkai replied. The boss must have built it. It's definitely not simple. Zhao Feng smiled slightly as he looked at Liang Mengkai, and said, I also want to take a look. Why can't you just leave us alone? Liang Mengkai snorted and said, if you want to go, ask the boss. Why me? Zhao Feng was speechless once again. He was a little confused in his heart. Just how had he offended her? Why was she always so stiff when talking to him? Thinking about the tone Liang Mengkai used with the boss, Zhao Feng could not help but laugh bitterly to himself. Why did she being so gentle when talking to the owner?